Beyoncé is terrified of crowds. No, seriously. The woman who sells out stadiums, who commands the attention of millions, who is arguably the greatest live performer of her generation, she has said in interviews that she gets cripplingly nervous before every single show. So how does she do it? She doesn't. Beyoncé doesn't walk on that stage. Sasha Fierce does. Sasha Fierce is bold. Sasha Fierce doesn't flinch under stadium lights. Sasha Fierce doesn't feel the weight of expectations. She feeds on it. Beyoncé created Sasha Fierce as a deliberate alter ego, a separate persona she could consciously step into the moment she walked on stage. And this wasn't just some cute marketing gimmick. This was a psychological technology she used for years to unlock a version of herself she couldn't otherwise access. And here's the thing that should blow your mind. She's not alone. Kobe Bryant had the Black Mamba. Muhammad Ali constructed a persona so powerful, he literally changed his name. David Bowie reinvented himself into Ziggy Stardust. Eminem has Slim Shady. Even Abraham Lincoln wore a top hat, in part to feel taller, more commanding, more presidential. And outside of celebrities, Winston Churchill narrated himself as a character from his own novels. A famous study of children showed that kids who pretended to be Batman literally asked themselves, what would Batman do? Showed dramatically better self-control and focus than kids who use their own name. So what's going on here? Is this just method acting? Is this self-delusion? Or is there something deeper? Something rooted in how the human mind actually works that explains why giving yourself a secret identity might be the most underrated performance tool available to any person alive. That is what we're diving into today. Based on the work of performance coach Todd Herman and his book The Alter Ego Effect, this is the full breakdown of why alter egos work, how to build your own, and how some of the most successful people in history have weaponized the power of secret identities to become legends. Let's go. Before we can understand what an alter ego is and why you need one, we have to understand the problem it solves. Todd Herman calls it the ordinary world. The ordinary world is that version of you that shows up when the stakes get high. When you walk into the job interview and suddenly you can't remember how to be charming. When you get on stage and forget everything you know. When the big moment arrives, the date, the presentation, the game, and instead of rising to it, you shrink. Why does this happen? Because you're carrying too much baggage. Your name, your identity, comes loaded. It comes with memories of every time you failed, every embarrassing moment, every teacher who doubted you, every time you choked. When you try to perform as yourself, you are performing as a person who already has a track record. And for most of us in high-pressure situations, that track record is full of fear and self-doubt. Psychologists call this phenomenon the spotlight effect. We dramatically overestimate how much other people are watching us and judging us, which triggers a kind of psychological paralysis. There's also something called ego depletion, the idea that willpower and self-regulation draw from a limited mental resource. When you're fighting your own self-consciousness, your own internal critic, your own anxiety about being you burn through that resource before the performance even begins. Herman describes how he first stumbled onto this insight as a young athlete. He was playing sports and noticed that when he pretended to be someone else, a fearless version of himself with a different name, he performed differently. Not because he magically got better at the sport, but because he got out of his own way. This is the core problem the alter ego effect solves. How do you stop fighting yourself, stop dragging your history into the moment, and access the best version of what you're capable of? The answer, counterintuitively, is to stop trying to be yourself. Let's be really precise here, because this is where a lot of people get confused. An alter ego is not a fake persona. It is not pretending to be someone you're not. It is not lying to yourself or performing some hollow act. An alter ego is a container, a specific, named, intentionally constructed identity that holds and expresses qualities and traits that are already inside you, but that you struggle to access under pressure. Here's the key distinction Todd Herman makes. The alter ego doesn't add anything that isn't already there. It removes the interference. It bypasses the filters. It creates a lane, a specific, protected lane, where your best qualities can run without being blocked by fear, self-consciousness, or limiting beliefs. Think of it like this. You know how actors talk about getting into character? Great actors don't just memorize lines. They construct a whole inner world for their character. Motivations, history, physicality, voice. And once they're in character, they can access emotions and behaviors that they might not be able to access just sitting in a room as themselves. Your alter ego works exactly the same way. Herman describes several categories of alter egos people create. The superhero model, directly borrowing from a character whose traits you want. A timid kid who invokes Superman's courage. An introvert who imagines she's Black Widow in a negotiation. The animal model, athletes especially use this, connecting to the raw, instinctual power of a particular animal. Aggressive like a wolf, patient like a panther, explosive like a cheetah. The historical figure model, channeling the traits of an admired person from history. What would Churchill do in this meeting? How would Marie Curie approach this problem? The future self model, projecting forward to an idealized future version of yourself and borrowing their confidence, their decisiveness, their calm. And crucially, the alter ego needs a name, and ideally a totem. The name matters because language creates psychological reality. When you give something a name, you give it form and power. The name of your alter ego is the trigger. It's the word you say or think that tells your nervous system. We are now operating in a different mode. The totem, a physical object, acts as an anchor. It could be a ring, a pair of shoes, a specific jacket, a watch, something you put on that signals the transition. We'll come back to this in a moment. This isn't just philosophy or self-help platitudes. There's a substantial body of psychological research that explains exactly why alter egos work, and it's fascinating. First, self-distancing. Psychologist Ethan Kross at the University of Michigan has spent his career studying something called self-distancing, the ability to mentally step away from yourself and view your situation from a third-person perspective. His research found something remarkable. When people talk about themselves in the third person, can Ethan handle this? Instead of can I handle this? They show dramatically lower levels of emotional reactivity to stressful situations. Their heart rate responses are smaller. Their cortisol spikes are smaller. They make better decisions. Why? Because the first person I is too close. It's too emotionally loaded. Switching to the third person creates just enough psychological distance to allow your prefrontal cortex, the rational, planning, executive function part of your brain, to actually do its job instead of being hijacked by the limbic system's fear response. An alter ego takes this even further. Instead of can I handle this, you're asking what would the black mamba do? You're not just creating psychological distance, you're replacing the emotionally loaded I with an entity you've intentionally designed to have the qualities you need. Second, the Batman effect. Rachel White and colleagues at the University of Pennsylvania ran a study on this with children. They gave kids a boring, repetitive task and told them to work on it for as long as they could resist temptation to play on an iPad instead. One group was told to think about themselves in the first person. Another was told to refer to themselves in the third person. A third group was told to pretend they were a character, a superhero like Batman or Bob the Builder, and to ask themselves what that character would do. The kids in the Batman group showed significantly better perseverance. They stayed on task longer. They resisted distraction better. A fictional identity gave them access to qualities, discipline, focus, persistence they struggled to access as themselves. And this effect isn't limited to children. Studies on adults show similar results. Third, identity-based behavior. James Clear in Atomic Habits talks about the power of identity in shaping behavior. He argues that the most powerful form of behavior change isn't goal setting, it's identity shifting. Instead of I want to run a marathon, the powerful frame is I am a runner. The alter ego is essentially an engineered version of this. You're not just declaring a vague identity, You're constructing a vivid, specific, emotionally resonant identity that carries the behaviors you want automatically. Fourth, the role of costume and totem. There's a concept in psychology called enclothed cognition, the idea that what you wear affects how you think and perform. A famous study gave people identical white lab coats and told one group they belonged to a doctor and another group they belonged to a painter. The group who wore the doctor coat showed significantly better attention and performance on cognitive tasks, even though the coat was physically identical. Physical props activate psychological states. When athletes lace up their specific shoes, when a performer puts on their costume, when you slip on the ring you've designated as your alter ego's totem, you are triggering a psychological state change. Your nervous system has been conditioned to associate that physical sensation with a specific way of being. This is not superstition. This is conditioning, and it's extraordinarily powerful. Fifth, flow states and identity release. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's research on flow states, those peak performance experiences where time slows down and you operate at your absolute best, identifies a key feature: the disappearance of self-consciousness. In flow, you stop thinking about yourself and become fully absorbed in the action. An alter ego helps induce this state by preempting the self-consciousness before it starts. If you're not performing as you, there's less you to be self-conscious about. All right, this is the practical section. How do you actually construct an alter ego that works? Herman lays out a clear, structured process. Let me walk you through each step. Step 1. Identify your field of play. An alter ego is field-specific. You don't need an alter ego for every moment of your life, only for the specific arena where you're struggling to show up fully. Maybe it's your professional presentations. Maybe it's the sales floor. Maybe it's dating. Maybe it's athletic competition. Maybe it's difficult conversations. Pick one specific arena. Be precise. Not work, but when I'm leading my team in a high-stakes meeting. Not sports, but when I step onto the court for the fourth quarter. Precision matters because your alter ego will be tuned specifically for that environment. Step 2. Define the ordinary world, your current problem. Now get honest. In that specific field of play, how do you currently show up when things get hard? Do you go quiet when you should speak up? Do you shrink when you should expand? Do you panic when you should be calm? Do you people please when you should hold your ground? Do you freeze when you should be decisive? Name the pattern clearly. Don't judge it, just see it. This is your starting point. Herman talks about the trapped self, the version of you that keeps showing up because of old stories, old wounds, old beliefs. Acknowledging the trapped self isn't weakness, it's intelligence. Step 3. Define the heroic version, your alter ego qualities. Now flip it. In that specific field of play, what does the ideal version look like? Not a vague ideal, a specific, behavioral, concrete ideal. Not confident, but walks in slowly, makes strong eye contact, speaks in a lower register, takes pauses, never rushes to fill silence. Not fearless, but first to volunteer, never hesitates before speaking, leans toward challenges instead of away from them. Make a list of the specific behaviors, qualities, and traits your alter ego embodies. The more concrete and behavioral, the better. These become the operating instructions. Step 4. Choose your alter ego and give it a name. Now comes the creative, slightly strange part. You're going to give this collection of qualities a name, and ideally a form. Some people borrow directly from a character they already admire. If Kobe Bryant's Black Mamba instills in you that cold, surgical, emotionless focus you need, use it. If Wonder Woman's strength and fearlessness is what you need in negotiations, use it. Some people create entirely original characters. Herman describes one of his clients, a female executive who was struggling to hold her authority in a male-dominated boardroom. She created an alter ego she called Victoria, drawn partly from Queen Victoria, partly from her own grandmother, partly from an amalgam of women she admired. Victoria was regal, unhurried, unmoved by pressure. Victoria didn't need anyone's approval. The name should feel right. It should carry emotional weight. When you say it internally, it should feel like activating something. Step 5. Give your alter ego a totem. A totem is a physical object that anchors the alter ego, that becomes the physical trigger for the psychological state change. The totem works through classical conditioning. Every time you invoke your alter ego, you do it while touching or putting on the totem. Over time, the physical sensation becomes inseparably linked to the psychological state. Eventually, you only need the totem to begin the shift. Good totems are often items of clothing, a specific pair of shoes, a jacket, a hat, a watch, or jewelry, a ring, a bracelet, a necklace, or accessories, a pen, a bag, glasses. Something worn or held that is specific to the field of play. Kobe Bryant's alter ego activation was partly triggered by his pre-game routine and the specific jersey going on. Beyoncé's Sasha Fierce was activated by stepping into costume. For many athletes, it's the moment they put on their uniform. Your totem doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be consistent. Step 6. Create the origin story. This is a step many people skip, and it's a mistake. Your alter ego needs a backstory. Not an elaborate novel, just a clear, vivid picture of who this entity is and why they have these qualities. Where did your alter ego come from? What have they been through? What makes them unshakable? What do they believe about themselves? This backstory gives the alter ego psychological depth. It makes them feel real rather than like a hollow costume. The more real they feel, the more effective they are as a psychological trigger. Step 7. Practice the transition ritual. Lastly, create a deliberate, repeatable transition ritual. A specific sequence of actions that marks the shift from your ordinary self into your alter ego. This ritual might be putting on the totem, a specific breathing sequence, a phrase you say to yourself, a physical posture you adopt, or a few moments of visualization. The ritual is the bridge. It tells your mind, we are crossing over now. We are no longer operating as the ordinary self. The alter ego is here. Herman calls this the activation sequence, and with repetition, it becomes almost instantaneous. Let's spend some time looking at concrete, documented examples, because seeing this pattern across history makes it undeniable. Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba. Kobe Bryant adopted the Black Mamba persona after what he described as one of the lowest points of his career. The 2003 sexual assault case that threatened to destroy everything he built. He needed a way to compartmentalize, to show up to the game as something other than the embattled, distracted human Kobe. The Black Mamba was cold, patient, precise, emotionless, lethal. Kobe described the Black Mamba as having no relationship problems, no distractions, no feelings. The Mamba just hunted. By the end of his career, Kobe had fully integrated both identities. The Mamba became an expression of him rather than a mask. But the deliberate construction of that persona allowed him to survive and then thrive through periods that might have broken other athletes. Muhammad Ali, the greatest. Cassius Clay did not become Muhammad Ali purely for religious reasons. Ali was a deliberate, careful architect of psychological warfare, and his greatest weapon was his persona. Ali declared himself the greatest before he had the record to back it up. And that wasn't delusional arrogance, it was intentional identity construction. He understood that if he could make his opponents believe he was the greatest, he had already won half the battle before anyone threw a punch. He also used his persona to manage his own psychology. In interviews, Ali often spoke about himself in the third person, classic self-distancing. Ali is too fast. Ali is too pretty. By narrating himself as a character, he could access a fearlessness that even he, as a human being, might not have naturally felt. David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust. David Bowie was a shy, insecure young man from South London who could not figure out how to break through in the music industry. He'd had moderate success with a few singles, but nothing had clicked. Then he invented Ziggy Stardust, a fictional alien rock star. And Bowie didn't just write songs about Ziggy. He became Ziggy. The costume, the hair, the makeup, the persona, the mythology. Ziggy gave Bowie permission to be outrageous, to be otherworldly, to demand attention. Bowie would later say that he thought of Ziggy Stardust as a separate entity who possessed him. And when he killed Ziggy in 1973, retiring the persona at the height of its popularity, he said it was partly because Ziggy was taking over. The alter ego had become so powerful, Bowie had to be deliberate about maintaining the separation. Eminem, Slim Shady. Eminem has spoken extensively about how Slim Shady allowed him to say things, explore ideas, and inhabit a character that Marshall Mathers, the real person, couldn't. Slim Shady is the part of Eminem's psyche that is unfiltered, provocative, and free from consequence. The persona gave him creative freedom and emotional protection simultaneously. When people attacked Slim Shady, Marshall Mathers could watch from a small psychological distance. The criticism didn't penetrate as deeply because it wasn't aimed at the real him. This is one of the underappreciated functions of an alter ego. It acts as a psychological buffer. The alter ego takes the hits, so the core self remains intact. Adele, Sasha Carter. Yes, Adele has one too. And interestingly, she named it partly in tribute to Beyoncé's Sasha Fierce. Her alter ego, Sasha Carter, is the one who walks on stage. Adele has described herself as painfully shy and prone to severe performance anxiety. Sasha Carter is the fearless performer who doesn't feel those things. Adele has said she can't explain it logically, but the shift that happens when she invokes that persona is real and measurable to her. She performs differently. She carries herself differently. The nerves don't disappear, but they become irrelevant to the character. Now, there are some important pitfalls to avoid. Mistake number 1. Using the alter ego as permanent escape. An alter ego is a tool for a specific field of play, not a way to permanently avoid being yourself. If you find yourself living as the alter ego 24/7, unable to be your natural self in any context, that's a sign the alter ego has become an avoidance mechanism rather than a performance tool. The goal, as Herman describes it, is that over time, the qualities of the alter ego become integrated. You don't always need the costume anymore because the qualities have become genuinely yours. Mistake number 2. Building an alter ego you don't believe in. Your alter ego has to feel authentic at some level. If you pick Batman, but you find Batman ridiculous, it won't work. The alter ego has to resonate, has to trigger something real in you when you invoke it. The test is emotional. Does naming and embodying the alter ego create a genuine internal shift? If it feels hollow or embarrassing, find a different model or build an original one. Mistake number 3. Skipping the totem and ritual. Many people like the idea of an alter ego, but never give it a physical anchor. Without the totem and the ritual, the alter ego remains abstract, a concept rather than a trigger. The physicality is non-negotiable. It's the bridge between thought and embodied state. Mistake number 4. Expecting immediate results. The alter ego becomes powerful through repetition. The first time you put on the totem and invoke the persona, it might feel awkward. That's fine. Like any conditioning, the connection between trigger and state strengthens with use. Give it time. Mistake number 5. Using the alter ego to suppress genuine emotion. There's a difference between performing through discomfort and suppressing something that genuinely needs attention. An alter ego is not a way to bypass legitimate grief, trauma processing, or relational work. It's a performance tool, and like all tools, it has a right use and a wrong use. So let's make this real. What's the one thing you can do today? Start with the field of play. Pick one arena, just one, where you consistently underperform relative to what you know you're capable of. Not where you're bad at something, where you're capable but can't seem to access that capability under pressure. Write it down. Be specific. Then ask yourself, who would I need to be in that arena to perform at my best? Not what skills, not what knowledge, but who? What kind of person? What qualities? What energy? What presence? Start sketching that figure. Give them a quality or two. Let them take shape. You don't need to have the full alter ego built today. You just need to start the conversation between you and the part of yourself that already knows how to perform, the part that gets blocked when the stakes get high. The alter ego is not a trick. It's not a disguise. It's a doorway. And the version of you that walks through that doorway, they've been waiting for you to open it. There's a line from Herman's book that I keep coming back to. He writes that we don't have one self. We have many selves. And the question isn't which one is real. They're all real. The question is, which one are you choosing to activate? Most of us spend our whole lives reacting, letting circumstance decide which version of us shows up. The anxious one when stakes are high. The small one when judgment is near. The uncertain one when action is required. The alter ego is the practice of choosing deliberately, of saying, not today. Today, when I step into this arena, I am choosing who walks in. Beyoncé chose Sasha Fierce. Kobe chose the Black Mamba. You get to choose too. The only question is, what's your alter ego's name? If this resonated with you, I'd love to know, what field of play would you build an alter ego for? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read them. And if you want to go deeper on the psychology of peak performance and identity, subscribe, because that's exactly the kind of thing we dig into on this channel. See you in the next one.